Well, welcome back to Reading the Bible Together. I'm Autumn. I am the co-director of the adult team, and I'm here with Harry. I almost said Pastor Harry because that's what I think of you as. And we are going to be reading Luke 2 today.
Okay. Begin at verse 1. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," so they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so. The master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he pulled the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." This is the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed in Cana of Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him.
After this, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and brothers and his disciples. There they stayed for a few days. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found men selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of the cords and drove all from the temple area, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. How dare you turn my Father's house into a market?" His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." Then the Jews demanded of him, "What miraculous sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." The Jews replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs he was doing and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was in a man. Hey, Harry, what's going on in Luke 2?
Well, the wedding at Cana, what always intrigued me was, it's water and the wine. Now, the quantity is astounding, right? But water and the wine. When you go down to verse 11, it says it's the first of his miraculous signs that he performed in Cana of Galilee. But then it says this, that this miracle revealed his glory. Now, on the surface, it's an amazing miracle, right? Because you have those 6 stone jars, 20 to 30 gallons. When I was in Sunday school, they used to show in this story, little people, they have little jars on their shoulders. 20 to 30 gallons, you're not going to have any shoulders. That means each jar weighs probably 200, 300 pounds. According to Google, and probably some other sources, you've probably heard this before, but that's over 900 bottles.
That's a lot. Yeah.
900 bottles. I don't know how big Cana was. I don't even know the population, 900 people. 900 bottles of wine. So there's got to be more to the story than what we're getting. But for the reader, you don't have to know all this. You just read it. It's an amazing story, right? And this is typical John's gospel.
And it said when the Messiah was coming that there would be flowing wine.
Yes, yeah, it's it. I've got the references. Anybody wants to look them up at home. Read Amos 9, verse 13. read Joel 3:18, and read Isaiah 35, 1-2. All three prophets talk about in the days of the Messiah, the mountains are going to drip with wine. It's a picture of abundance. The Messiah is walking the earth, and you just get a glimpse. Just get a glimpse. And again, in my mind, again, when you think of the teachings of Jesus and the Bible talking about eternity, the number one picture of our life will be a wedding feast. It's going to be a wedding feast. And the provision of God will be overflowing for us. That wedding at Cana it's a powerful story. You've probably heard too in verse 4, he's not being disrespectful. That's a phrase that is not disrespectful. He says, dear woman. If I'd say that to my wife, that would not go over well. Different time, different culture. The other thing that's interesting in John 2, the other gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Jesus cleanses the temple in the third Passover. In John's gospel, he cleanses it in the first Passover. Now, some people may look at that as a contradiction, or you can look at it when it says, zeal for my house has consumed me, that every time he went to Passover, he did the cleansing. And it may be because of that third time, they just couldn't take it anymore when they rise up against him. So I don't believe it's a contradiction. I just believe that's what Jesus did when he saw how they abused the court of the Gentiles.
And also those variations at times can just be different accounts from different perspectives. So when researchers hear the same exact story, they think it's just a lie. But when they are varied, that actually confirms that it's true. Because people's memories and things like that. So either, I agree with you, it very much could be he did it every single time. Because his house was to be a house of prayer. And also what they were clearing was the area for the Gentiles and the women. And so again, the high will be made low and the low will be made high. He was constantly out for the least of these and saying, you're not allowing the women and the Gentiles to come to worship. And you're literally closing them away from what they were supposed to do in order to honor God.
The other thing, in verse 19, he says clearly he's going to resurrect. It's already introduced to the reader that this Jesus you're going to read about is going to die and come back to life. So the reader's encouraged to keep reading the story.
Absolutely.
Keep seeing Jesus, who is full of grace and truth.
That's good. All right, so what does it all mean, Harry?
What I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go home, have a glass of wine.
That's a great idea. We can all go home and have a glass of wine and enjoy.
No, it's funny when
enjoy celebrating. I do see all the feasts, the festivals, the parties, the wedding feasts, and just the idea of abundance. That when we feel there's scarcity, that our God is a God of abundance.
Well, in the Chosen, the session they have on the wedding at Cana, I just love it. Because you really picture Jesus celebrating. He really was celebrating the marriage. And we don't always have that picture in our mind of the Son of God having a great time at a wedding. But that's what we're going to have in heaven someday. That's what his promise is, that he will resurrect, and so will we.
That's right. It's good to meditate on that promise while celebrating. All right, everybody, have an amazing Holy Week, and we will see you back next week.